Hi, thanks for pulling up this video. I'm assuming that you're watching this because you have some questions about how to use Inkscape because you are getting into projecting your sewing patterns using some type of projector that is a DIY setup. That's not necessarily a store-bought package. So I use Inkscape. What I walk through here on this video won't match up with other types of vector programs, but some of my other videos or instruction videos that I plan to do will be similar in each vector program, like how to unfold a pattern or how to select something. The difference is going to be simply what they call things and how you select things. So each program calls things differently. They use different key commands, things like that, or the little images or what they call the tools are different or they're in different places. So in this video, what we're going to do is if you have a really busy pattern, say a crazy floral print or paisley, and when you're projecting with this black and white setup the way it is, it's really hard to see your pattern lines, right? Because that pattern's so busy. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a negative of this pattern. So it's going to turn the pattern lines white and the background black. And what that does is it projects white lines on your fabric then. So if you have a darker fabric or a busy fabric, it's going to be a lot easier for you to see where you need to cut those lines than just projecting a black line. So let's get into this. So a couple things that I haven't covered in other videos I want to cover here is some zoom button options that you have here and how to move around your workspace. So I use a lot of key commands and I'll try to tell you what I'm selecting. If you ever want to know what a key command is, on the tools here in Inkscape, one cool thing is if you just hold your mouse and leave it there, it's going to tell you the tool name and it's going to tell you how to get there in a hotkey. So if you type Z on your keyboard, it will automatically select that, that tool for you. So for example, to get to the zoom tool, you click Z, and to hotkey to your selector tool, you click S on your keypad. So I'll show an example of that. So right now you can see I've got a little pointy arrow, which means I have my selector tool so I can select different objects, right? Now I need to zoom. So I select this, but I want to zoom in on this little mark here and see what that is. So I'm going to type Z on my keyboard. As you can see, it turned it into a magnifying glass. I can either click my mouse to zoom in, or I can click and drag to zoom in on a selected area quickly. Now to zoom back out, I hold down Shift, and I zoom back out by clicking. Now I want to move this page more in the center of my view. So I'm not clicking anything. It's still on the zoom tool. It doesn't matter what tool you're on or anything. If I hold down spacebar and click and hold down and move my mouse, I can move the page anywhere I want. So that just makes it easier to get around and navigate. Another option, so let's say I've zoomed in here. Another option to zoom out really quick is these three zoom pages. This will zoom out to the entire page. This will zoom just to the selection the item I have selected. And then drawing zoom, I don't really use. So let's zoom out to the selection. So now it just has what I have selected as big as it can make it on my screen. Or I can see the whole page by clicking that other one. So those are just some navigation tips for you. Now let's get into how we set up a negative of this pattern. So I'm going to grab my selection tool, so that little arrow. As you can see, I still have my zoom tool selected. I'm going to type S, and now I have my selector tool again. I don't want this object selected, so I'm going to click anywhere on the page or on the paste up. So when people call, this is your page, your white areas of the page, this gray area is what they call the paste up board, or traditionally. This is traditional design language. So if someone says that, that's what they're talking about. So I've got my selector tool. Oh no, I don't see my layers box. Well, in Inkscape, if you've accidentally hit it, these three little dots here, and you saw how my selector arrow change and that highlighted, if I click, it's going to open up that hidden box again. And now I have my layers, so I can see my layers. But now my page isn't centered. So let me go back up here. Let me click to zoom to page, and I have everything and I can see everything now. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a new layer. So I'm going to add layer, and name that layer negative. I don't want it as you be careful when you check your position before you add, because right now it's set to a sub layer of the current layer. What that would do is it would add the layer underneath this front layer. I don't want that. I want it to be its own layer above everything. So I'm going to select this drop down and do above the current. And then I'm going to click add. So now instead of putting it inside this layer, and we'll get into sublayers on the next step, it's put it on its own level. But I want it at the very top here above all these other ones. So let me move this up by using these raise position. So now the layer is at the very top. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to select this first one. See how it's light blue? I need it to be dark blue. So I'm going to click again. And that second time I clicked, it selected everything on that layer. Now I'm going to hold down, and I'm on a Mac, so it's going to be different on a PC. I don't know what the equivalent of control is on a PC, but on a Mac, you're going to hold down control, and then I'm going to click the other layers. And as you can see, it's now got everything on layer 1 in the front, it's selected. I'm going to do that for all the layers in the collar. So now I've got all my items selected that I want to copy. So I'm going to copy these. So you can do that in two ways. You can use a hotkey, or you can go up to Edit, and then Copy on a Mac. And for me, I like to use the Command C. But you can just click Copy and it's going to copy it, or Command C copies it as well. I'm going to select the negative page. And before I paste this, I'm going to turn off these layers so you can see that I'm actually pasting something in here. So I've got this layer selected because this is where I want it to be pasted on. So make sure wherever you're pasting something when you're working with layers that you're on the right layer that you want that item to paste it on. So imagine this document has like 5 pages and they're transparent. They're all transparent so you can see the page underneath each one of them. That's what a layer is essentially. And this goes back to traditional paste up days when you used to use things called acetate film and cut acetate and all this stuff. So I won't get into that though. So I'm on the right layer. What I'm going to do is I want to paste all those objects exactly in the same position they were before. So I'm going to use what's called copy and paste, or paste in place, sorry. Again, that's under edit. You're going to go to paste. There's 2 paste. I don't want paste Command V. I want to do this paste with options, and I want to use in place. Or you can do, and it tells you the little hotkeys here, right? That little first item is option. The little icon next to it is command, and then V is V on your keyboard. If it has an up arrow like that, that's actually shift command V, and then it would paste the style. We don't want that. We want option command V or paste in place. So I'm not going to click on that, but you could, and it would paste it in place. What I'm going to use is the hotkey so you can see it. So I'm going to option command V, and it pasted exactly in the same position the things that I copied pasted. And it's on the negative layer. So now I can turn that on and off, as you can see. And when I pasted it, it pasted them as what's called sub layers. So remember earlier when I had to change it from sub to above? If I had done sub, it would have created a layer like this underneath the front layer. You don't want that. But this is okay. In fact, I can control those individual layers as well, as you can see. So if you ever have a layer turned on and you're not seeing all your stuff, right? I've got this visible, but I can't see all of my pattern pieces. Well, come over here, expand your layers, and see if any of them are hidden. And that's usually what the issue is. Okay, so now that we have this pasted, I want to select all these items. So I'm just going to click and drag and select all the items on the page, on the layer. Sorry, I'm going to condense that for now. Then we're going to go to extensions. We're going to go down to color, and we're going to go down to negative. And we're going to click negative. So it's going to automatically turn everything that's black white. Looks like it disappeared, right? It hasn't, I promise you. I'm just going to deselect those by clicking somewhere on the page where they're, or on the paste up board where there's nothing that else could be selected. So you can see the outlines a little bit here of my seam allowance. Doesn't matter because I don't need to see my seam allowance, right? For me, I don't anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a black background on this so we can see those white layers. So I'm going to expand this. I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm just going to call it black box. But again, what I want this to do is I want it to be a sublayer so I can get it underneath all of these. So I'm going to switch this back to as sublayer of current, and I'm going to click add. Now it's put it underneath this, but I want it at the very bottom of all these layers, so it's behind everything. So again, I'm going to click the layer down, and then I'm going to grab my box tool, or type R on my keyboard, or rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle, and as we can see, my lines magically appear. It's the fun part, right? I'm going to move to my selection tool, so I'm going to type S on my keyboard. And then I'm going to click on the paste up area to deselect that box. And now I have a negative pattern. So when I'm pattern projecting on a darker, busy pattern, those lines are going to show up so much easier for me to see. So let's say I've got this open. Oh, let's not forget to save. Always save your work because you never know when you're going to get a crash or you accidentally, your computer shuts off because it runs out of power. We call this ABS back in my design days, always be saving, because sometimes some people would click the power strip and it would shut off everyone's computers before laptop batteries. So I'm going to do a Command S, and that saves it. So I've got my save, so just in case I have a crash or anything. So let's say I'm working in this pattern, and I pull it up, and the last thing I cut was something busy, so I have the negative on. I want to cut some white fabric. Well, this is going to be really hard to see on a lighter fabric. So all you have to do is hide that whole thing and turn on your other layers. Now, to make that easy as it is to turn off all the negative, what I can do is I can create a layer. I'm going to do above current, and I'm going to call this positive. Oops. Select that, positive, and I'm going to add that. Oh, and you know what I did? This is the importance of layers. I made an accident here because I had black box selected, the layer selected, and when I created that layer and said above, it pasted it above the black box. But don't worry, that's easy. I'm just going to click it and hold, and I'm going to drag it out of there, and I'm going to maybe, I don't know if Inkscape lets you do this. I think it does. I'm going to, come on. There we go. Got it? And I'm going to see how it's in between the layers there. You see that green over to the right there? It's telling me where it's going to be placed. And so now I've gotten it out of there. You could just simply delete it and create the layer again and make sure you're not in that sublayer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to again grab all these, and I'm just going to do the same thing. So see how that whole box is selected around positive? I'm going to start moving my layers. Sometimes it's tricky to grab these because Inkscape is free, so you kind of deal with little glitches and some inaccuracy, but hey, it's free, and I appreciate them making it, so I just kind of deal with it, and I just kind of sometimes don't get frustrated, just keep trying. And I'm going to move each one of these. I'm having a hard time grabbing the box. Sometimes it just doesn't want to grab it. Select out, come back, and there we go. So my solution was I just clicked over here in the paste up, and then I came back in, selected the layer, and it let me grab it. So each time you grab a layer, just click out and click back the layer you want. So now I have it on its own layer. Now I can turn it on and off really easily. So I can switch between these two. Super simple. Hopefully that helps you. If you want more guidance videos on how to use Inkscape or do something in Inkscape or even in a vector program, because again, I can use Inkscape to show you. At some point, I plan on buying AD to also help out with that. Just let me know in the comments, and I will try to create a video for you to help you out. Thanks for watching, and click like or subscribe to help grow my channel here.